Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Welcome to Acast Classics 2026. 4 exceptional limited series handpicked for their journalism, craft, and storytelling, including Sweet Bobby,
I'd caught him red-handed.
West Cork,
The trial turned on a single witness's testimony.
The Witness,
I didn't do it, so that's why I'm standing here.
Carrie Jade Does Not Exist.
She offers them exactly that and then just bails.
To find out more, head to acast.com/classics.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hi, this is Joel Greenberg. I am the host of a podcast that Toronto Mike, produces for me called Life in Stages. Today, I am a guest in Mike's world, and I am eager to have him take charge and lead us through whatever this conversation becomes. So, very happy to be back here, and thanks, Mike.
What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto, where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto, where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto, like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto.
Welcome to episode 1925 of Toronto Mic'd, an award-winning podcast, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery. Order online at greatlakesbeer.com for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Visit palmapasta.com for more. Toronto Maple Leafs baseball. Catch a game at Christie Pitts this summer. No ticket required. Fusion Corp's own Nick Iones. He's the host of Building Toronto Skyline and Mike and Nick, 2 podcasts that you ought to listen to. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today, returning to Toronto Mic'd, he's the host of Life and Stages, Joel Greenberg. Welcome back, Joel.
Thank you, Mike.
I gave it my, what is that, like when you have like monster truck rally or something, or wrestling maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Is it too much for too much?
No, nothing you do is too much, Mike.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that. Okay. Well, welcome back. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good. Yeah, thanks.
Is it hot enough for you out there?
Yeah, but your studio is so cool, both in its literal and its. I was going
to say I've never been called cool before.
Yeah, well, okay.
We're here in Brian Linehan. Did you ever meet Brian Linehan?
I did. One of the many dinner theater shows that I did in the 70s and 80s was a show called A Bite of the Big Apple. And it had different MC, like sort of compares, MCs. And Brian was one of the guests. So I did get to meet him, yeah.
Okay, I bring him up because you said cool, and I said, oh, you're just seeing Brian Linehan's photo way buried back here. But I love hearing all the stories about Brian Linehan. Okay, so I'm going to remind listeners a little bit about who you are, and then I'm going to set the table for a special episode of Toronto Mic'd. Okay, so if people want to know the A to Z of Joel Greenberg's career in theater and more, you want to dig up in the archives. All the episodes of Toronto Mic'd are available on demand right now. Did you know that? So this is 1925. That's crazy, right, Joel? We're going to hit 2,000 episodes at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you probably, I'm going to maybe audition, have the highest bidder auction off the episode 2,000, highest bidder, but the money's not going to charity. It's going to me.
Oh, okay.
I just want to put this is an idea that just hit me right now. Okay.
Sure.
Who wants episode 2000? How much are you willing to pay for that? Okay. you were here in September. And later I'll explain you're here quite a bit, and you're going to be here quite a bit. But let me get through this, which is that you were here for Toronto Mic'd.
Yes.
In September 2024.
Yep.
Almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We showed great restraint by not having you on more frequently. Okay. And here's the description I wrote at the time. In this, you had a cool number then too. So you're 1925 now, but you were 1555. So in this 1555th episode of Toronto Mic'd, Mike chats with, and you tell me if I mispronounce this, Dora Maver?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dora Maver Moore Award and Chalmers Award winning actor, director, choreographer, playwright, and teacher Joel Greenberg about his decades of theater direction and his recent pivot to podcasting with Life in Stages. So I'm going to unpack that just to remind people who you are. But if they want the deep dive, they got to go to episode 1555 of Toronto Mic'd. But I was coincidentally, yesterday I was online on Facebook, I think, and multiple people I'm connected to on Facebook were talking about being at the Dora Maver Moore Awards last night.
Right.
So remind us, what are the Dora Maver Moore Awards, and are you aware of what transpired last night?
No. The Dora Maver Moore Awards were started like the early 80s, I think. And it was the city's, the Toronto theater community's acknowledgement of excellence in the course of a season. And that, the awards themselves have grown, developed a lot. There are many, many more awards now than there were. For instance, when I won my award. Yeah.
When did you win?
For directing, I think it was 83, 84, something like that, for a musical called Ain't Misbehavin'. And
was that a Mervish thing?
No.
No. Why do I think I see the poster in like Honest Eds or something?
I don't know.
Okay.
There may have been a touring production of it that they brought in. No, this was done. This was Marlene Smith, who produced a lot of the work that I did then, and it was at what was then the Port's Dinner Theatre, which in the course of the run, it was a very successful production. The production had to close because the Port's was about to become a condominium. And so the show moved to, it opened the what was then the Premier Dance Theatre. Queen's Quay Terminal had just opened.
Right.
So that was that. No, I wasn't at the awards. In fact, I find awards, like best of things, they make me, I find them so repellent, actually.
Okay.
Because I really do think that if you're looking at sort of the best of the season and you have nominees, I think that should be, that should be the acknowledgement. You're saying these 4 or 5 shows or these people, were outstanding this season. The fact you have to choose one, I said, oh, come on. This is, I don't get it. And, yes, I have mine. And
is it on display somewhere proudly?
It is actually on a bench between several very, very large plants. Okay. So if you know what it is, and I think the design of it has changed. I'm not sure. But, this was it was 40 plus years ago. And, I understand, in New York with the Tonys and London with the Olivier Awards, that those awards are really, I think they're as much a marketing device as they are an acknowledgement. But I still find, when you're saying the best play of the year, here are the nominees for the best. And I said, oh, God, that should, that if I were running it, that's as far as it would go. But I'm not. So
no, that's interesting because of course these award shows are like marketing tools, right? So they're just it's just, I guess it creates the excitement and the drama to have the winner, right? Yeah. And then you get exposed to all these shows and then you go to the theater.
Well, the thing is, and this is not to take I'm not looking for, opportunities to slam the doors, but the Dora Awards, and I don't even know which shows were nominated this year, frankly, and I certainly don't know who won. But if this year was like many previous seasons, by the time these awards happen, all the shows all the shows are over.
Well, you can't go see the shows
No,
you
you
learn
can't.
about at the awards.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
And then
'Cause it's not like you can rent them at Blockbuster or whatever.
no, you can't. And
There's a reference for it.
yes, the live streaming option hasn't yet taken over.
Thank you. I knew there was a
Toronto.
replacement for Blockbuster. I couldn't quite figure out what it was.
Yeah. So I think that is a little. I mean, it's very. I guess the word is it's very in-house, and for the people who like it, to paraphrase and borrow from the prime of Miss Jean Brodie, for people who like that thing, that is the sort of thing they like.
Right.
And so no, I was watching. What was I? I was watching Your Friends and Neighbors.
Oh, the second season.
Yeah.
With John Hamm.
The last couple of episodes. Yeah.
Okay, you weren't watching World Cup action.
No.
The match I watched last night at 9 p.m. was the Netherlands were taking on Morocco, and I was keen to watch. And I'm gonna, check your pulse whether you give a rat's ass about any of this. My guest yesterday doesn't care at all.
Yeah.
Like not even a little bit. So you'll be in good company if that's where you land. But
Yes.
this match was significant to me because the winner of this match is our next competitor. So we will face off. And it turns out Morocco won in a shootout. The Netherlands are out and we will face Morocco in the next round.
Okay.
And then, of course, if we beat Morocco, we'll be one of 8 countries left in this tournament. Joel,
Wow.
I'm gauging your interest level in the World Cup and Canada's performance. If Canada plays against Morocco, when's that going to be again? Saturday? Yeah. When that match happens, I can't remember. It's in my calendar. But will you tune in? Will you care?
Oh, I'll watch it.
Okay, so you will come in for the Canada
for
matches.
some of it, yeah. It's coincidentally, I'm in about halfway through a memoir by a Canadian sport. I mean, I think principally a sports writer. Certainly, what he was when he started. His name is Chris Jones. It's a really terrific memoir. And I was reading it because there was an excerpt of it in I think it was in the Atlantic, and it was very compelling. And I didn't realize until I started reading this that he's a soccer fiend. This has nothing to do with FIFA, but it has everything to do with the fact he was born in and grew up in England, and talks about his grandfather's favorite team and how he followed it. There is so much time spent talking about soccer in this book. I just want to get to the the personal
the
stuff,
fireworks
which is
factory.
the personal stuff is really compelling.
Right.
But that suddenly I am reading about something I've never read about before.
Yeah, the premiership, and there's different. They have different levels over
Yes.
there, and you get promoted or
that's
relegated.
right.
We don't have that in North America.
Exactly.
Fascinating, because my son has adopted Chelsea as his team, and I asked him once, I think, why Chelsea? We don't think it's a London team. And he's like, there was a player on Chelsea he liked, and that was it. And he had to pick some team.
Yeah.
And I didn't pick a team at all because I don't have to pick a team. But,
Right.
I do want to shout out another soccer fiend who grew up in Ireland who is excited about your return to Toronto. Mike, do you know what name I'm about to drop on you?
John Doyle.
John Doyle.
Yes.
And he just wrote a piece for the Toronto Star.
That's fabulous.
Yes, he's Globe and Mail. They don't hire schlubs over there.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect and time for John Doyle, but he is a big Joel Greenberg fan.
Oh, that's nice. No, I've been reading his articles. He's such a good writer, and it's so nice to see him in print. Because I don't know exactly when he retired from the Globe, but
You'll have to listen to his Toronto Mike debut to find out. But
Yeah,
it was
okay.
probably about 8 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. I haven't read the TV listings or the TV reviews since he left. So
Right.
he is so good. When you read I think he's now written maybe 3 articles for the Star about soccer.
Freelancer. Yeah.
And it is, when you're reading it, even though I don't actually understand a lot, he doesn't get very technical,
Right.
but reading it, you hear and feel his passion. It's great.
Agreed. John Doyle, big booster of this Canadian team, and I'm very proud and excited that we have actually won a knockout
Yeah.
game, and that we And I'm giving us a puncher's chance against Morocco because I don't know any better.
Yeah.
I'm not John Doyle, you know. I'm not Tobias Vaughn. What do I know here?
Yeah.
But so that's happening, and I think Blair Packham needs to read John Doyle maybe to appreciate what's going on here. He's the gentleman who doesn't give a rat's ass about any of this. I said if Canada's in the final, which will never. I'm a realist. I know this is a pipe dream, but if Canada's in the final, will you find your way to a television somewhere, maybe a public viewing or whatever? Nah, he'd rather talk about Springsteen or something. So, okay. But the other gentleman I want to shout out who's a big Joel Greenberg super fan is my dear friend Lorne Honickman.
Oh.
So Lorne Honickman and John Doyle, those are just two examples of people. Very excited you're returning here.
Oh, that's nice.
Before we change the channels and get into this very special episode of Toronto Mic'd, can you just remind us, because I noticed it didn't make my intro I wrote in September 2024, but remind us, what is Studio 180 Theatre?
Oh.
And how are you still tied to it?
Well, Studio 180 Theatre is an independent theatre, which means it doesn't have its own venue like other companies like Necessary Angel, Nightwood Theatre. There are many similarly sort of nomadic theatre companies. Studio 180 Theatre began with production of the Canadian premiere of a production called The Laramie Project, which was about the brutal murder of Matthew Shepard.
Right.
That was in 2003. And it came about because I was teaching at the University of Waterloo, and early 2000s, I got in touch with, I would occasionally see former students. So by now, these students were had graduated 10 years earlier, and they were that particular group of students. They were a phenomenal cohort, really, really interesting and curious and eager, and they worked so well together. And in seeing people a few times, I said it would be so great if those of us still trying to create a career for ourselves, if we could do a production together, because in this world, in the world of theater, it's hard enough to find work, let alone find work that 8 or 10 people who you gather together can do, unless you self-produce, which is what we decided to do. And so we did the Laramie Project, and the aim was to do just one play, to do it. It did very well. We did it again the following year. And then we did another play called The Arab-Israeli Cookbook. And after that, I said, if you want to do more, that's great. You should do it. The sort of starting at the beginning with every production is really, really hard. It takes so much energy and time to just get the machine moving. And shortly after that, by absolute good chance, by luck, one of the people who had helped to fund the Arab-Israeli Cookbook approached me and asked what what I would like to do next, how that would work. And these people who have a foundation said they were very interested in helping to support Studio 180 Theatre. And so it became an ongoing entity, because I'd said, when I said I doing these one-off shows is just too hard. I said, there's definitely an audience for what we're doing, and what Studio 180 does is social and political theater. And so it became an ongoing, not-for-profit, registered company, and that was this season, I think, is the 24th? Something like that.
Okay.
I stepped down as artistic director. I was one of 5 people who was sort of the founding members of the company. The other 4 people were former students. And I was the founding sort of artistic director, and I was with the company for the first 20 years. And then exactly 3 years ago, in June of 2023, I stepped down as artistic director. And the company continues. It's like many other companies, the coming out of COVID has been a huge challenge. But they are still there and very busy, and the education program is hugely successful. and I keep it. I'm not an integral part of the company, but I certainly am aware of what they're doing. And when I read plays or see a play that I think would be a good fit, I send it along. And if I feel it's a really good fit, then I will nudge and pester and say, so what do you think?
Right.
What do you think? And it's not about me doing the work. It's about when I come across, and it's, I guess the same as when I was artistic director, when I come across a play that sort of gets hold of me and won't let go, I take that. I said, I want to. The play deserves an audience. So that's Studio 180 Theater.
Now, I listened to Life in Stages, the podcast that did make the description, and I'll get a status update on that in a moment. But but you have loved ones still tied to Studio 180, right?
I do. My daughter.
You're on the stand here, Joel.
Yes.
Okay, I'm cross-examining.
Yeah. My daughter, Jessica, really created and has developed and built the education program. She's an actor as well, and she's certainly intimately involved in the running of the company. And Mark McGrinder, who was one of the founding members with me,
right,
and was a student of mine. I think we met in 1990 when he was starting university. So I've known him for a long time, and just as luck, fate would have it, Mark is now my son-in-law. I mean, he met Jessica long after. I knew him for many years before he met Jessica, but Mark is the current artistic director, and he was the associate artistic director for quite a few years before I stepped down.
Okay, so just to hammer that home, that's wild to me. So you were Mark's teacher?
Yeah.
And then he was one of the, you mentioned that there's five of you. Was it you plus 4 students?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And he's one of those 4.
Correct.
Okay. And he goes on. It's very feels like a Shakespeare play or something. Like he marries your daughter, Jessica. Mm-hmm. And now they're both, you've stepped away. You've retired.
Yes.
And it's because of your retirement that Life in Stages was born.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this, as I am biased here because I produce the show, but anybody with even a little interest in Canada's theater scene, and that would be people like the aforementioned Lauren Honickman or John Doyle, and people who have any interest at all will be fascinated by Life in Stages, because it's similar to the show, and it's you give your guest a chance to breathe and have an actual conversation, and you're very good at guiding these conversations with many actors and directors and many of our playwrights in this country. I think it's a fantastic podcast series.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've enjoyed
no bias
it.
there.
No, well, big deal. I mean,
right.
No, I continue to enjoy it. I mean, this is the 4th season is running now, and we will be doing the 5th season. We will be recording the 5th season later this summer.
I need a sound effect for that. So the good news for listeners of Life in Stages, as you're listening to, because we've recorded and packaged up all the episodes from season 4, and they're dropping. It's every Tuesday morning, right? Yeah, Thursday. I should know that. Yeah, every Thursday morning. Like I said, I'll fix that in post. But there is in my calendar. We were talking about it before I pressed record. There are many recordings for season 5. Yeah. Is there any guest in season 5 you want to tease now? Like drop one name of somebody who will be your guest in season 5? You don't have to. No. It's your show. But.
No.
They're all equally amazing.
That's right.
And spectacular. You love them all.
Absolutely. You bet.
Okay. So stay tuned. Subscribe wherever you get wherever you get this podcast. You can find Life in Stages, and you can catch up on what you missed. And there will be episodes for season 5 that'll make the Life in Stages fans very, very happy. Now I'm going to thank some partners and give you some gifts, and then I'm going to set the table because it's going to be all Joel, and it's going to be an interesting discussion, I think. But I want to make sure you know, Joel Greenberg, that Palma Pasta sent a lasagna over. It's in my freezer right now. A delicious lasagna that you can take home with you.
Oh.
I pause for the excitement from you. Okay, it's like The Price is Right or something. Okay. So I'm letting you know a delicious pasta. They fed us at an event last Thursday, TMLX 22. Joe, why were you not at TMLX 22 last Thursday?
I don't know.
You didn't know about it. Okay, you were busy.
I was busy looking at the soccer results.
That's not true. Although there were people who left my party for the tap room to watch the Netherlands play, actually. Okay. They had that game on. So we were at Great Lakes Brewery, and Great Lakes Beer has sent over some delicious, fresh craft beer for you, Joel Greenberg.
Oh,
so beer, lasagna.
Perfect.
Okay, I need more excitement from you.
Yes, that's great. That's great.
Toronto Maple Leafs play at Christie Pitts, and no ticket required. What a great value that is. I mean, in this city, everything's so damn expensive, and you can go to the park and watch high caliber baseball, and it's so fun. And you can drink beer in that park and not worry about the fuzz getting you, man. So I'm giving you a book on the history of Toronto Maple Leafs baseball. I urge everybody to check out a Leafs game or two this summer. RecycleMyElectronics.ca, Joel. That's where you go if you have old electronics, old devices, old cables. You don't throw that in the garbage because those chemicals end up in our landfill. You go to RecycleMyElectronics.ca, put in your postal code, and find out where you can drop it off to be properly recycled. Shout out to Nick Iones. He's the host of Building Toronto's Skyline and Mike and Nick. And Nick himself will be my guest on Friday. I finally need to get him on Toronto Mike to talk about this event that he hosted with mayoral candidate Brad Bradford that's caused some trouble. So we're going to get into it. I'll see what he can say. But we're going to get into that on Friday. Much love to Fusion Corp's Nick Iones. And last but not least, just yesterday, I was visited by Brad Jones at Ridley Funeral Home for a new episode of his podcast, Life's Undertaking. And we talked about his recent trip to Europe, and we talked about a conversation he had with Heather Rankin on Life's Undertaking. It was quite something. He sent over, since you're a returning guest, you get this new one. Okay, so first-time guests get the plastic green measuring tape, but this one, Joel Greenberg, okay, from Ridley Funeral Home, it's not just a measuring tape. There's a bottle opener in here. There's a flashlight. There's a level. This is like the Swiss Army knife of measuring tapes.
Wow.
There you go. How does that make you feel? He's ecstatic, everybody.
I am. I'm lost for words.
Okay. He's speechless. Okay, so here we go. Okay. Now, you reached out to me, Joel Greenberg. Yeah. Correct me if I get any of these details wrong, but I have this megaphone called Toronto Mic'd. And sometimes I get notes from people who would like to share my megaphone. Okay, this is a 14-year-old podcast, but it reached number 8. This is true. I have a screen cap and everything. Earlier this week, this podcast reached number 8 on the Apple Podcast charts for the category. Like it's whatever it is, it's a megaphone, and you wanted to share it. So I'm actually going to sit back. I will ask you questions about things because I'm a curious cat, but I need you to talk to me because I think this is an important subject that you'd like to discuss. Okay. Take it away, Joel Greenberg.
Okay. Well, I called you because I wanted to have a conversation about an issue where it seems impossible to have conversations with people. I've tried. And it's really about what I have felt and seen and heard and read in Toronto, I don't know if I know the theater community, so that's my reference point, but I think I know that it goes way past that. Since starting Life in Stages, prior to that, I really never did anything with Facebook, and I knew that Instagram was a word. I honestly had never looked at it, but since I started the podcast 2 years ago, I use both because that's how I promote the episodes. And so I've been reading. There are certain people who I read a lot, and the amount of shouting and awful language about Jews, and that all Jews. I mean, my issue is the way in which the conflation of words that Israel and Jews means the same thing, which essentially is defined by people who have been very successful at this marketing this propaganda, that all of us feel the same way, we all respond the same way, we all are...
All of us, you mean Jewish people?
Yes.
Okay.
Are indifferent to everything that's happened in Gaza. we are indifferent. I said, it's just bullshit. It is absolutely not true. But it goes very, very deep. And, my particular, and this is, it's been years now, and certainly exacerbated by October 7th. When I've tried having this conversation with people who I know, people who I think would be willing to talk, it's turned into something that is entirely binary, and I think I think there's a real irony in the fact that the term non-binary has become so much a part of our culture that in a world where we have to accept non-binary, except when it comes to politics. So you are either there or you are there. And typically by the time, when you open your mouth or you're asked about something, by the first thing you say, you are defined by, you define what your political position is, which is insanity. But it goes much, so that's bad, that's quite bad enough. And but what really, really gets me, and why I called you to ask to have this opportunity to talk, certainly before October 7th, but especially since then, there is this manifesto, and I'm going to read the title of the group so I don't get it wrong. It is The Palestinian Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel. And PACB is what the acronym is. So it's PACBI. Anybody who has time to waste, you can look it up. I did. And I did because it was brought to my attention when I was told that 18 theater companies in the country, 9 of which are located in Toronto, had signed this manifesto. I call they're guidelines, but it is a manifesto, and it's insisting that all Israeli artists, actors, writers, academics are boycotted. They are not to be allowed into our country, and there have been many people who have been canceled, people who were invited to give keynote addresses, artists who were going to have exhibits, authors who were going to speak about books, all canceled. Now, the fact is, in a couple of cases, the backlash was so strong that those, the bans were revoked. But by the time that's done, there was so much damage and so much personal damage, and the conversation I tried to have was to ask, what value is there? Help me understand why you have this blanket boycott. There are many examples of artists, educators, journalists, politicians who are voices of dissent in different countries. And to bring it to theater, the example that I used first, and it's really reinforced by looking at this document because they make reference to using the model of South Africa. I said, well, during apartheid, the South African playwright Athol Fugard wrote plays that were certainly not to the, they did not delight the South African government, and he was an international voice, and he was an international figure because he spoke out, and he was produced widely. Václav Havel in Czechoslovakia. There are Solzhenitsyn in Russia. Many writers. At a time like this, and if we look at the United States, it's the voices of dissent that become so important, and especially the arts. That is where the power, historically, that is where it happens, and that's one of the few resources. And when the arts are censored, and there is this sort of blanket boycott. I don't understand. In reading a little bit about this and reading from this manifesto, I mean, there are a couple of sentences that I think, I want to quote. I don't want to paraphrase because that.
No, yeah, you read from your notes,
Okay,
and I'm holding fire. So I'm taking notes, and then I'll
Okay.
have some questions.
Excellent.
But
Okay.
this mic is open for you, Joel Greenberg.
Okay. So I'm now reading from this manifesto. So it talks about the fact that this PAC B, the Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel, was initiated in 2004. And I wasn't aware. I mean, I knew there was BDS, and I didn't realize there was this separate attendant piece until I read about the theater companies that had signed this boycott. But here it says that it advocates for a boycott of Israeli academic and cultural institutions for their deep and persistent complicity in Israel's denial of Palestinian rights stipulated in international law. Now, if there are any academics or artists who are doing that, sure. But this is all blanket language. And anybody who has actually taken the time to find who the voices of dissent in Israel are, there are many to choose from. Journalists, politicians, artists in particular, authors, actors, dance, music, voices of protest, and anybody who's taken even 5 minutes to look at what is happening in the country itself, the opposition by thousands and thousands of people who rally against the Netanyahu government and against their policies and against the criminal behavior of the settlers in the West Bank. I mean, it's by boycotting this, as I understand it, all you are doing is reinforcing the sense that all the Jews are the same and they all want the same thing and they are all heartless and they have it's just madness. And it is, madness is a fair word to use for the Middle East, certainly as it is and as it has often been. And what is to be gained by silencing? I can only assume that part of the motivation for silencing is to not allow yourself to be made aware of what people are really like. If you speak to, read, listen to the people who are aggressively and violently opposed to everything that Israel currently represents in its government, it's part of that. When you speak to people as individuals and you don't talk about the Jews or the Arabs or the Palestinians as though they are an amorphous, this group,
like a blob.
A blob, yeah,
like-minded blob.
Yeah, and I've been in situations that have been so deeply upsetting because of what seems to me such ignorance and such easy way of labeling something. So I remember asking a couple of people not that long ago, I said, the words Zionist and anti-Zionist are thrown around as though they mean something. I said, so I'm just curious, speaking to an individual and saying, so you've just used those words, so tell me what you mean.
Right.
What is a Zionist?
Right.
What is an anti-Zionist? And the fact is that there was no substantive answer. It was an easy label. It's like, coming from either reading headlines or watching, a YouTube clip or something we're in a world where you can find, if you're looking for ammunition, you can find whatever you want to find. You can find something that serves you, that reinforces what you believe. And it's a lot of work to allow yourself into something that is perhaps, doesn't have to be wildly opposed to what you think, but to listen to to just hear somebody else's perspective. And it's not about trying to convince anybody that they're wrong. It's just about the opportunity for people to actually think and talk and share some way of being able to see the world. And Toronto is not the Middle East. And people in Toronto live lives, there is a reason why when incidents of anti-Semitism and vandalism and the shootings at schools when schools are closed, but using violence to make your point, when those incidents have multiplied exponentially, it means something. And when the incidents of anti-Semitic acts are recorded and they outnumber by far any other group, and the Jewish population is small, so it is it is alarming. And the fact that now this, I may very well have missed this. So if I'm blanketing something, or I'm being critical of somebody and I'm wrong, I need you or somebody listening who wants to tell me that I'm wrong.
Right.
So you look to leaders in different communities, right? And when short of those easy phrases like everybody should have the right to worship as they wish. Nobody should feel unsafe, going to school or going to a church or a synagogue or a mosque. That's all true. But when that's the most that, say, a politician can say, I don't know what they can do, because that isn't my world, but I am so aware that the leaders in our city, and the mayor in particular,
Olivia Chow.
Oh, Jesus! I mean, I forget. I think it was I don't know if it was a memorial or an event to honor the victims of October 7th, when she didn't attend and she said she hadn't received the email. It's like really, this
willful ignorance is what we call that.
That's correct. And it said, you know what? Just you'd be better off to say what you really think, because nothing is as stupid as saying I didn't get the email. Like, really, you didn't get the email? Okay. And I was reading something this morning actually about this is national, about leaders of industry who were acknowledging the increase in anti-Semitism, the increase in Islamophobia, and the names of the people who were signed onto this and sort of acknowledged it, represented industry and government. And I sent a note. It was a Facebook post, and I said, I guess Olivia Chow didn't get the email asking her to join the rest of the people. I said, so there we are. So that's the city of Toronto, right? And in the theater community, apart from the 9 companies that have signed this statement, because let me get something else here. It's another quote that.
Sure, I'm just taking more notes here, Joel.
Sure. maybe I'll find it.
And while you're doing that, I'll tell everybody because so Joel's not on the show because he's a friend and a client. I will say this. If I get an email from somebody who wants to share something like this and have a conversation about it, I will always say yes. I'll just point this out, that this is not me because I believe in something and I wanted to shine a light on something. This is because I believe that Joel Greenberg has something he needs to share and I want to give him a chance to share it. And then we will have a conversation about it. But it's not because Joel is a client or a friend. I just want to make sure like that is out there. I'm open to all reasonable and sensible discussions of this nature.
Okay, I don't think I can find. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, take your time because
it was somebody speaking for the theater community, and
take your time.
Okay.
Hurry up. The choice is yours. Don't be late. You do that. I will happily tell people that I'm taking tomorrow off, which is Canada Day. I actually cleared my calendar for Wednesday. No recordings tomorrow, but Toronto Mike is back on Thursday with Ed Keenan of the Toronto Star. He's got a quarterly appearance the first Thursday of every month. Sorry, the first Thursday of every quarter at 2 p.m. Ed Keenan, and we'll talk about everything going on because you mentioned Olivia Chow. I'm going to ask you questions later about Olivia, but there's a mayoral race going on, and it looks like it's right now it's Olivia Chow versus Brad Bradford. It's not too late for others to enter the race. That deadline, I can't remember. It's late August or something. I can't remember. But we haven't hit that deadline yet. But right now it looks like Olivia Chow versus Brad Bradford. So that will be on the agenda. Much to discuss with Ed Keenan. And then this is interesting. The name Susie McNeil. If people don't know that, she's a singer. And she came to prominence because she was that rock star In Excess. There was a big reality show to replace the legend, the late, great Michael Hutchence, to get a new lead singer for In Excess, the great Aussie rock band that I actually personally adore. And I played the cassette Kick. The album was called Kick. I played it just over and over again until I just ruined that tape. I loved In Excess's Kick. So many radio singles, and I love the sound of the band. Anyway, Susie McNeil became a known person for her participation in Rockstar In Excess, and she's going to be in the basement on Friday. So I'll do a chat with Nick Ines and then Susie McNeil at 11 a.m. on Friday. How's it going over there, Joel? I don't edit
fine.
Toronto Mike, so
that's
this is called vamping.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to read. This isn't what I was looking for, but it speaks to this certainly.
Okay.
So, talks about freedom of expression. This is also from this document, from the manifesto. So, here is what it says. This organization rejects censorship and upholds the universal right to freedom of expression. The institutional boycott called for by Palestinian civil society does not conflict with such freedom. PACB subscribes to the internationally accepted definition of freedom of expression. Okay. So they reject on principle, I'm quoting again, boycotts of individuals based on the identity, such as citizenship, race, gender, or religion, or opinion, mere affiliation of Israeli cultural workers to an Israeli cultural institution is therefore not grounds for applying the boycott. If, however, an individual is representing the state of Israel or a complicit Israeli institution, or is commissioned, recruited to participate in Israel's efforts to rebrand itself, I don't know what that means, but somebody obviously does, then his activities are subject to the institutional boycott the BDS movement is calling for. So it strikes me that the hypocrisy of this seems really fairly transparent, because it advocates here, as I may have said this earlier, it advocates for a boycott of Israeli academic and cultural institutions for their deep and persistent complicity in Israel's denial of Palestinian rights without looking at any particular company, any individual. So it is looking at as though every company, every artistic endeavor is the same.
Right.
All of them fueled by the same hate and the same violence. And this document is written as though that means something. And the theater companies that have chosen to sign on to this, that claim that by doing this they are in no way anti-Semitic, I mean, it's bullshit. And, it just is. So,
you tell me when I can
go ahead.
I have some questions. And I'm glad you're doing this on Toronto Mic'd because I feel like possibly the listenership for Life in Stages are people who care about the theater industry or at least know about it or are absorbing more, where this is you're going to have some people listening who obviously are passionate about our theater industry, but you're going to have a whack of people listening who are outsiders and maybe aren't like Lauren Honickman, who's a big super fan of the theater industry here. So when you say theater companies in this country have signed on to that manifesto that you've been quoting from, you dropped some numbers, right? I think you said 22? 18. And 11 in Toronto or something?
18 in the country, 9 in Toronto.
Okay. And can you just give me I'm just curious, like what is that, like a percentage of the whole? Like, I don't even have a sense. Like when you say 9 theater companies, for all I know, we have 10,000 theater companies in Toronto.
I don't know the percentage. There are a lot of theater companies, and of these 9, 2 or 3 are sort of essential members of the community. The others, to not be
bigger.
To not be unfair, others are much smaller, much less well known to the public because they don't have much of a public profile.
But there's a few biggies in there, you said.
Yeah. Buddies in Bad Times Theater and the Theater Center are the two.
Oh, I know these names.
Yeah.
I know Buddies in Bad Times Theater.
Yeah, they're the 2 major theaters. And, I believe it was Buddies when they sent out their press release announcing that this was going to happen, that these companies were endorsing this boycott. They said that they felt that and I really am paraphrasing, and I don't have it in front of me, but essentially they felt they had to do something. They had to acknowledge.
So this is better than doing nothing. Signing on to this manifesto that you've been quoting from.
Yeah.
And to paraphrase.
And at the same time, one of those companies has said, when asked, is that, oh no, we don't, we're not anti-Semitic. We don't want Jews to stay away from us. I said, well, that may be, but you have a pretty rough, good luck marketing that when you have boldly and aggressively said that you are boycotting all Israeli artists, academics, because all of them are complicit.
Right. That to me is very significant detail. That it's a blanket ban.
Yeah.
So is it essentially all citizens of Israel are banned?
That's how
regardless
I understand it,
regardless of their thoughts, opinions, and perspective regarding
that's my understanding.
Global affairs.
Yeah, and that's what this says. I mean, that's certainly what this document says. I know that there are academics. I know there's everything related to Israel and Palestine and the Middle East has always been fraught. It has never not been a hotspot. And certainly in the last 30 years, I guess 40 years, since the first Intifada, so the late 80s on, it's just been nonstop. And with Netanyahu in government, and even when he was out of government, he was still very present. But Netanyahu has been where he is essentially since the mid-90s. So for at least 30 years, he is the face, he has become the face and the voice of Israel, which does nothing to help Israel. and he's as much a thug and crook as Trump and a whole cadre of,
Would you put Putin in that club?
Sure. I mean, these are the get rich quick, the get rich scheme, and just before October 7th in Israel, there was a huge backlash against him because he was trying to, he called it reforming their court and their Supreme Court, and people they just wouldn't have it. Israel has an election presumably in October, and some speculation about why Netanyahu has continued doing what he's doing is that he's been found guilty of fraud, of theft, of bribery. I think the bribery charge was actually dropped finally, but he certain that he will be found guilty. And as long as the country's at war, and he hasn't been able to reform the Supreme Court, he's either dancing for his life, but he has managed to survive for a very long time, in spite of the fact that he's vile, and the coalitions that he has had to work with. I mean, Israel, the politics of Israel are nuts because it is a small country, small population with so many political parties. I mean, there's no party is ever in the majority. There is no majority party. It's not possible. It's always a coalition. And he has this coalition of the severe right-wing zealots. It's just...
Now, on this very
awful
podcast, Joel,
Yeah.
I've had lengthy discussions with my friend Ralph Ben-Mergy on this very subject.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned this off the top. There's a conflation of Israel and Jewish people like yourself, right? Montreal people like Joel Greenberg, and this conflation. And I think that's where, when you do this blanket ban, this is me speaking my opinion here, this blanket ban of all Israeli artists, it seems like because you disagree with Netanyahu policies, which Ralph Ben-Mergy does, which you just did right now, and you may disagree with the actions of the nation that is Israel and their leader Benjamin Netanyahu, and the conflate that this conflation of Israel with people in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, like Joel Greenberg here. That's where this blanket ban becomes so offensive to me.
Yeah.
And I am curious, some questions from your esteemed host here. Are there similar bans, for example, of artists from Russia?
There was at the beginning when Russia invaded Ukraine, there was, and there were artists who were not permitted, where contracts were broken. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know the status of that now. I don't know to what extent that was. I mean, I'll give you an example of part of this, of people of incidents in Canada. I will
read from his.
I will just so I get the names right.
Sure.
So here are three examples. A woman named Muriel Lipke, Jewish Israeli. She is a cyclist, and she was to be giving, and she's also a motivational speaker. She had been hired to do the keynote address in Peterborough, International Women's Day. And because of, as an Israeli, she did mandatory army service, as every Israeli does from the age of 18, 2 years of mandatory service. She was she was quite a bit older, but the information that she had at some point served in the Israeli army became this groundswell of protest.
And that's mandatory.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anybody who except for the internal issue is except for the religious. anybody who is religious is spared having to.
Oh, like Orthodox.
Orthodox, that's it.
Okay.
The Orthodox are not required to serve, and that's become its own big issue in the country. But she and I think I got the name wrong. That was Leah Goldstein was the cyclist, and Miriam Lindgren is a writer, and she had been invited to the Victoria Comic Arts Festival. She's a graphic novelist, and she was to be part of that festival. And she was another person who it was discovered, as though it was never a secret, but it was revealed that she had also done army service. So she was canceled. And there was such a backlash with both of those that in the case of Miriam, the author, they reversed their decision. In the case of
the cyclist,
they just canceled the whole event. And there is a play by Christopher Morris called The Runner. And it's been done, it wasn't its first production at all, but it was to be produced at the Belfry Theatre in Victoria. And there was so much pro-Palestinian protesting that the production was canceled. And I don't, I don't envy at all anybody who is on the receiving end of that kind of pressure, how you make a decision, because almost certainly whatever decision you make is going to be the wrong decision. Somebody is going to point out that you failed that. And it is happening right now with the Museum of is it Civil Rights, Human Rights? The Human Rights Museum, because there is to be, and I've just that's in like this is now daily news. There is to be an exhibit about the Nakba, about the persecution of Palestinians and the emigration of Palestinians in 1948, and they're bringing it. And I haven't seen the exhibit, but the exhibit apparently also talks about what's happening right now. And one of the members of the board of that museum resigned because he said, I don't have a problem with, representing that history. He said, however, at the same time, in 1948, at the same time that hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were, looking elsewhere, even more Jews were being expelled from Arab countries at exactly the same time. So he said, it is incumbent upon a museum that talks about human rights to tell the whole story. And the fact that you're representing one people and completely ignoring the reality of what that world was it's indefensible. So he resigned, and I've read, there have been a couple of extremely well-written arguments to the point, and I don't envy, God knows, I don't envy the people at the museum who are going to deal with this. They won't. I don't think anything will change. But that's an immediate example of what is happening.
That's happening now.
Right now.
Right now. Okay, so to bring it back to it's kind of a pointed question for you, Joel, but do you think Canada's theater industry is anti-Semitic?
No, I don't think an industry. First of all, there isn't. The industry in Canada is really provincial. It's so regional,
right?
And I can talk about Toronto.
Okay, let me rephrase it. Do you think Toronto's theater industry is anti-Semitic?
No. I think there are people. I think there are members of the community.
They walk amongst us.
They do. The thing that I find. I don't know. I don't know what the response could be. I find it very telling that these companies believe. The companies that signed on to this manifesto believe what they're signing on to. They don't really want to talk about it because when I've seen, certain events, talk about the Doras. I was talking to an actor about this actually. And he asked me if last year, not this year, he said, did you go to the Doras last year? I said, no, I haven't gone to the Doras since I won. So it's been a very, very, very long time. I said, I don't do that. He said, well, it's a good thing you weren't there. I said, why is that? He said, because there was all kinds of demonstrating about free Palestine from the river to the sea. I said, at the Doras? He said, yeah. I said, okay, well, so the fact that I haven't heard anybody from the Toronto, representing the Toronto theatre community, and when I say that, I mean from any of the major companies, actually saying anything, acknowledging what's going, like no acknowledgement at all, none. And I don't know what that acknowledgement could be, but there should certainly be something said when actors have told me that they know that they're not, some feel they're not getting work because they're Jewish. They're not Israeli, but they're Jewish. And that's become one and the same thing.
Okay, let me pull that thread for a moment here, because these theater companies that have signed on that manifesto, as you call it, 8 in Toronto? I should remember this.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Nine.
9. Okay,
Yeah.
9. I'm not speaking German there. 9.
Yes.
But the Israeli artists are banished or boycotted or whatever. No Israeli artists. Do you feel there is a spillover effect where maybe some non-Israeli citizens who are Jewish are also not being I don't know what the term would be, but hired? Sure.
I don't know, but I know from speaking to a number of Jewish artists who feel that they are, they feel like they've been turned into pariahs, even though they are not, they're not screaming at the gates, they're not protesting, they're just trying to be, and
this is since October 7th that this has been
it's really
accelerated,
completely accelerated.
Right.
Yeah.
I had on actually I was going to bring up my recent conversation with Warren Kinsella, but I'll save that because I'm going to close with a little Toronto municipal talk as we get ready for Ed Keenan in a couple of days here. But I did find from the Anti-Defamation League, I do have the definition of Zionism.
Okay.
Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So Anti-Defamation League says Zionism is the movement for the self-determination and statehood for the Jewish people in their ancestral homeland, the land of Israel. That's what Zionism is.
Yeah.
So it sounds, if I'm reading this correctly, if you're a Zionist, you believe Israel is the ancestral homeland for Jewish people.
Yeah. And there are there are Jewish voices and some Israeli Jewish voices as well that believe that a state, that creating a state of Israel that becomes nationalist in its thinking is not healthy. So it's not, there are people
It's not binary.
And there are people who disagree with what that there should be. Some people who never felt there should be a country, but everything changed after the Second World War, and however things happen, the ways in which history, the way Britain particularly decided to, carve up what was Palestine, saying there will be one state, there will be a Jewish state, there will be a Palestinian state, and that wasn't acceptable. There, of course, there was war immediately, and just one of many, 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 many wars since 48. I don't know.
But you so Joel, firstly, I'm glad that you came over and that we're having this conversation. So I'm glad that we're doing this, and I hope people listen.
Yeah.
With an open mind and open heart.
Yeah.
And if anybody says, hey, I want to use that megaphone, just write me at mike@torontomike.com and tell me what you want to say on my megaphone, and we will possibly do that. Okay. But do you appreciate, and I think you do, just having private conversations with you, but do you appreciate the anger at Israel for their treatment of civilians in Gaza?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's madness. And you can certainly find people who think that that's exactly what should have happened. But you're going to find, you're going to find an awful lot of people who were as appalled by the way in which Israel just kept destroying, and the argument. The reality of Hamas and Hezbollah as these Iranian proxy. Where it's so. I mean, it's impossibly complicated. Just looking at what's with Trump and Iran, that it's so interesting that when the most recent war happened, it was sort of the United States and Israel together attacking.
Right.
Then whenever they decided to start talking, it was the United States and Iran, with Pakistan mediating. Israel was not, was uninvited or disinvited from the activity. I said, Netanyahu, I don't know how, I don't know what it is that drives people. Of course, anybody who deals with Trump seems to end up they all seem to end up in the same place. Like they're just sort of dumped, when they're no longer useful. But the message that sends a country and the backlash against Israel in the States now is it's huge. And, for people who are really smart, it's astounding. It's astounding how stupid some of the decisions have been. But I say that knowing, I have no idea how decisions like this get made, or not being able to look ahead enough.
We're not going to solve it in this chat, are we?
Well, it's not going to be. I don't think it's solvable. I don't know what. The only thing I can hope for is that Netanyahu will be voted out, and that whoever is voted in will be sufficiently centrist to begin a long repair. And I don't know that any party in Israel has ever been there long enough to actually repair anything.
In the meantime, some obvious truths that I will share as I've been listening and absorbing here, but some obvious truths, which is that Israelis, that's not all the Jewish diaspora. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Diaspora. I have a lot of Jewish friends. That sounds like I'm Doug Ford telling you that I have a lot of, my lawyer's Jewish, my doctor's Jewish. Well, his wife is Jewish, actually. But okay. So I would say that equating Israel with all Jewish people is wrong and crazy to me, and suggesting that all Jewish people or all Israeli people share the exact same opinion of the actions of Netanyahu. To me, that's ludicrous, and that's insane. And I think that this, hearing you tell me about this, I can't remember the acronym anymore, but the PAC B, in this blanket ban of all Israeli artists, regardless of their stance on what's happening in Gaza or in Israel or what Netanyahu is up to, I think that sounds wrong to me. And these artists with dissenting voices should be amplified, if nothing else, at this time. Like, don't ban them because of their passport here. And it's, many a Jewish friend of mine is very angry at Netanyahu's actions and their treatment of civilians in Gaza. But do you mind, Joel Greenberg, if we close with Olivia Chow? Is that okay here?
Sure.
Okay. Sure. Because I have other Jewish friends who have told me, blanketly, they've told me Olivia Chow is anti-Semitic. Okay? Yeah. And you point out the fact that she didn't attend, I don't know if there's multiple examples, but she didn't attend this particular event to remember October 7th and the many victims, that she didn't attend because she didn't know it was happening or wasn't invited.
She didn't get the email.
She didn't get the email here. Okay. Now, Warren Kinsella, he was here, I guess that was a couple of months ago now. I've lost track of time, but it was in 2026. Then he made his Toronto Mike debut, and he wrote a book about the rise of anti-Semitism in this country. And yesterday, this happened yesterday. So there was a Pride Parade on Sunday, which I would have attended, but I was actually watching Canada versus Switzerland, and nothing was going to pry me away from that television. All right. So they're at the Pride Parade. I guess Olivia Chow, somebody was taking video with her, and she made a remark. She said, "Free Palestine."
Yep.
Those were the two words she said.
Yep.
And Warren Kinsella shared the video, and as an example of Olivia Chow's anti-Semitism. So I have a couple of questions here, but take it away from Olivia. Is the opinion expressed Free Palestine? Do you, Joel Greenberg, feel that is an anti-Semitic remark?
I guess it's, in part it's context. I happened to see that clip, and it was at the Pride Parade. I don't know the woman she was with. There were two women looking into the camera, and something about great Pride Parade and Free Palestine, and she was delighted. She was
passionate.
She was so happy, and I thought that is. I found that chilling. I don't know what else she might have said, and I guess the combination of having heard so much chanting of, Free Palestine from the river to the sea. I think if Palestine, it needs an explanation. I guess I need to understand when somebody says.
You have follow-up questions for Olivia Chow based on those remarks, but those independent, those remarks, free. You can be an ally,
sure,
of Jewish people around the world, and feel Palestine should be free.
Sure.
Like those are not mutually exclusive opinions.
They're not, and they become they become exclusive if what Free Palestine means is Free Palestine from the river to the sea, so that Israel, you obliterate Israel, give us back what is ours, and
you when you hear Free Palestine, you hear the other part of that mantra or
it's the context. I could have done without seeing Olivia Chow, laughing and delighting and saying Free Palestine. I said, I'm tired of hearing it, and the context of it is that it's been 3+ years. It's been 3 years since October 7th, when that has become the chant, and business on campuses. And I live in...
My daughter just graduated from McGill.
Okay.
Yeah, we were worried at the convocation there might be a protest.
No, Montreal makes Toronto look like tame, but I live in downtown Toronto, so I'm quite accustomed now to having to walk through people handing me, and I don't mind handouts, but when it becomes a kind of bludgeoning, and there was a very small group, like maybe half a dozen people in front of the Israeli consulate on Bloor Street, and I wasn't there. My wife was. She was coming out of the building from she wasn't at the embassy or the consulate, but it's in the same building. She said there were these kids holding placards, and she said she spoke to one of them and just said, "I'm really curious. What are you? What is it?" It was clear to her they absolutely had no idea.
Right.
They could speak in headlines.
Right. Just like the people who are talking about, Zionists.
That's
without understanding what that term essentially means.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't hold up upon follow-up. No, there will be no follow-up questions as I spout this rhetoric.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so glad that we were able to do this, because it's not a headline. A headline's not going to be sufficient.
Right.
There needs to be a conversation, a dialogue, and follow-up questions. And I hope younger people who are reciting these terms that maybe they hear it on campus or these headlines, as you called it, that they take the time. I really hope they're doing this. I fear they're not, of course. But take the time to understand what that means exactly. Like, drill in, dive deep. Yeah. This world is so into short sound bites for social media, these platitudes, these remarks. Free Palestine. Okay, let's talk about what does that mean? Because I am telling you, Joel, I believe you can believe in free Palestine and not have a titch of anti-Semitism in your body.
I agree.
But you need to explore further to discover whether that is true or not.
Yep. Thank you, Mike.
So Olivia Chow, in your humble opinion, is possibly anti-Semitic.
I didn't say that. I don't.
No, I said that. I want to hear what you're saying.
I don't know. I just think I think she is in the wrong job. I think her time. I do hope that there is a really strong candidate.
Well, there's only one.
I know.
Well, and I know Warren Kinsella is part of that Brad Bradford's campaign.
I see.
He's got an inherent bias regardless of his thoughts.
Yeah.
But Brad Bradford, if you don't want Olivia Chow as mayor, you're at this point, as we speak, on June 30th, 2026, you're going to have to park your vote with Brad Bradford.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I might have to get you back on the eve of the election to find out what's going on in that brain of yours, Joel.
Yeah.
But I'm going to see a lot of you between now and the election because
Yes.
you're going to be here. How many episodes do you think you're going to do in this season 5?
19 or 20.
So we'll be together. I know we do 2 in a day often, but there's going to be many, many days I sit in this seat and look at your handsome face there. So season 5 of Life in Stages is happening, and season 4 is rolling out now. And thank you for this thought-provoking conversation. And I did not know about these 9 theater companies in Toronto that had signed on to this manifesto that you read from. And I didn't know Buddies and Bad Time Theater were one of them, and I feel educated here. Thank you. Thank you for the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
And that brings us to the end of our 1925th show. Go to torontomike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. And much love to all who made this possible. And that is Great Lakes Brewery. They were great hosts last Thursday for TMLX 22. Palma Pasta, they fed us all. I didn't get a meatball. I'm still ticked about it. I told this to Blair Packham. But everybody filled their bellies and loved it. Thank you, Palma Pasta. Toronto Maple Leafs baseball. Christy Pitts. No ticket required. Enjoy some great baseball, including Yasiel Puig. Nick Ioannis, I'm going to chat with him Friday on Toronto Mike. Find out what happened with that Brad Bradford event. Follow the money. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. And of course, Ridley Funeral Home. Fresh episode recorded yesterday. I almost called it Life in Stages, but that's Joel Greenberg's. This is Life's Undertaking. You know, Larry Fedoruk has a podcast called Later That Same Life, which means I produce 3 shows with the word life in the title. It's a good thing I don't get confused. See you all Wednesday. No, that's Canada Day. Happy Canada Day, everybody. See you all Thursday with Ed Keenan